Hi everyone, this feels really weird, sat behind the desk in the senior management team room, or as we call it. Rennick and Calvin are here socially distancing and are coming at the end to provide a bit of light relief. The subject we were going to do on the 3rd of June was Catatonia, Shutdown and Breakdown in Autism. Not the most jolly of titles, but I felt it was more important to stick to the arranged programme, and this also might be of benefit to people who are in lockdown at the moment as opposed to shutdown, and it might be that some of you, as a lot of the people are telling us here, are actually more relaxed. We had one mother say that for the last 9 weeks her son hasn't had one single meltdown, and that's a record. So let's go through the slides. So slide 1 is the title. I'm labelling the slides so that Dream can actually coincide the slides with the commentary. Hoping this works. Bear with us if it doesn't. So the first title is the title page. So it's Catatonia, Shutdown and Breakdown in Autism. So trying to distinguish those. One of the foremost people in the field is Dr. Amita Shah, who worked with Lorna Wing, who you may remember, one of the forerunners in the world of autism in this country and indeed the world. Amita Shah is the UK expert on catatonia, and I had the privilege to work with her. She has written a book which has the same title as this, and if people are interested, I recommend they read the book. I also have some of the original journal articles here, and the first journal article that was written by Amita Shah and Lorna Wing is called Psychological Approaches to Chronic Catatonia-Like Deterioration in Autism Spectrum Disorders. So, let me give you a bit of the history. The term catatonia was first coined by Carl Baum in 1874. So, this is now on the second slide. There was a big misconception in the 1990s which linked catatonia to schizophrenia and psychoses. Shah quotes that this misconception came about due to, as she put it, the widespread reliance on the Diagnostic Statistical Manual and International Classification of Diseases, and here I quote, as absolute truths rather than guides for clinicians, unquote. So you may remember that DSM and ICD are the handbooks that we use to diagnose, and I think she's quite right by saying that it's important to rely on the skills and experience of clinicians as well as being guided by these criteria but not wedded to them. To this day there are misconceptions and misinformation about catatonia. I'll try and explain some of those. So the next slide looks at the DSM-5, which was developed by the American Psychiatric Association in 2013. If you look on that slide, there has to be at least 3 of, as they call it, the symptoms. However, you will note that 7 of those 12 symptoms actually overlap with what are called symptoms of autism. So let me go through them. So the first one is catalepsy, which is where people's muscles become very rigid and they are stuck in a fixed posture. The next one is wavy flexibility. Now what on earth does that mean? It's a decreased response to stimuli and a tendency to remain in an immobile posture. So it's not like catalepsy, which is very rigid, it is much more fluid. Then there is what is called stupor, where people look unresponsive. Agitation, mutism, negativism, posturing, which relates to actually adopting different postures, mannerisms, stereotypies, grimacing, echolalia and echopraxia. So echolalia is the repeating things back, echopraxia is copying body movements. So you'll see that 7 of those could be autism on their own. The next slide looks at ICD-11, the International Classification of Diseases, and I think it's a better definition of catatonia, where it says there has to be several of the following: extreme slowing or absence of motor activity, purposeless motor activity, unusual or bizarre postures, and it did say resistance to instructions, which is now no longer linked to catatonia. The next slide shows if you rigidly follow DSM and ICD, it has led to catatonia being misdiagnosed and individuals not being diagnosed when they should. The next slide helps us think about what is catatonia then. And one definition that I find quite helpful is a gradual deterioration or breakdown in functioning and difficulty with voluntary movement. However, this definition still misses out some subtypes of catatonia, which I'll try and explain, but they include episodic catatonia, intermittent shutdowns, and the side effects of medication. And I think some of you may remember when Dr. Sudarsan came to speak with us about medication, he did talk about some of the side effects of what I've called some of the psychotropic medications. So the next slide, I've tried to draw on some real life examples. So the first goes a long way back to when I was working with people with learning disabilities, and there was quite a lot of thinking about what's called intention movements, intention tremors, some of which you see in Parkinsonianism. And there was one man who, when we sat him at the dinner table and put his knife and fork there, he would freeze and was unable to pick up his knife and fork. However, if we tapped him on the shoulder, that then enabled him to move his arms and he would pick up his knife and fork and eat in the usual manner. The second person I worked with and had the privilege of working jointly with Amita Shah was a young man who had had a successful university career for the first year of his life. In the second year it all became very difficult for him, and he had what a lot of us might call shutdowns or meltdowns. However, he was then treated with major medication, which led to him going completely catatonic to the extent that he could no longer feed, drink. He was in a wheelchair and virtually immobile. I won't go into very much more detail than this because it would be quite easy to identify the individual, but suffice it to say he has recovered from a number of those particular conditions. The final person was a person I met more recently who on his good days was quite a bubbly individual. I diagnosed him with autism. He had a good job, he had a partner, and with people who shared his interests, had a rich social life. However, this was in contrast to some days when he was unable to get out of bed and physically unable to get out of bed, and his partner needed to do almost everything for him. We tried to chart what the triggers of that might be, and certainly it was almost certainly linked with stress, and almost certainly linked with where he had had a very busy time and maybe insufficient time to recover. Let's move on to these subtypes then. So the next slide is called chronic catatonia and catatonia-type deterioration. So what does that mean? Well, Shah defines that as a change and deterioration in the individual's ability to carry out voluntary movements and activity which affects their daily life. And I would say that was probably the third person I've spoken about. The next slide talks about the subtype of acute catatonia, and this refers more to the sort of almost classic signs of becoming immobile, becoming mute, the catalepsy, and this wavy flexibility, which is probably the thing that's most likely to be picked up because it does look quite unusual. There is the subtype as well of catatonia, a shutdown, where there's a temporary shutdown of social interaction and communication at times of acute stress. The next slide talks about episodic, lifelong catatonia type difficulties. So this may not always be a deterioration or a breakdown, but could be a chronic or episodic difficulty in starting movements and activities. A lot of autistic people who experience these episodic, so now and again, they will not be believed. So some of this might be, you know, we hear, I don't understand why you could do this yesterday, but you can't do it today. This could be a catatonia. And it's problems of initiation which can paralyse people temporarily. So how common is it? Well, Wing and Shah in 2000 looked at a clinical population attending their diagnostic clinic. So clearly that's in some ways a skewed sample because they were turning up at their clinic. And they said that there were 17% of autistic people aged 15 or over showed chronic catatonia deterioration. So that's a minimum estimate. The next slide talks about the fluctuations that I've mentioned before. So autistic people who suffer with catatonia have good and bad days, and the difficulties fluctuate, but we're not quite sure, apart from the issues I've mentioned before relating to stress, why this might fluctuate. That's the best hypothesis we've got at the moment. So more importantly, in a way, is what can we do about this? And Shah talks about a psycho-ecological approach, and in her paper with Lorna Wing she goes into a lot of detail about that. Let's try and summarise that. She first of all feels that we need to clearly describe what she calls the profile of catatonia, the shutdowns, the breakdowns. So thinking about when they happen, how long they happen for, and hypotheses as to why they happen. Then looking at what helps, what doesn't help. She then suggests that individuals with help describe, as she calls it, their autism. So because of this overlap in symptoms, it's important, for example, if someone has been mute on and off all of their life and that doesn't appear to be catatonia related, that's firmly described within their autism profile. So it's important to disentangle their autism from their catatonia. And then, as our mate Luke always says, the importance of the environment. So remember Luke's autism plus outcome equals, autism plus environment equals outcome. So the environment is really important, and that's what she calls the ecological approach. The next slide talks about medication. So there clearly appears in the literature some, and Shah calls them culprit psychiatric medications, which can bring on catatonia in autistic individuals. And also medication that affects what's called the motor and extrapyramidal nervous systems, and where they might have side effects on those nervous systems. And she talks about the importance of withdrawing that medication carefully, and that can then eliminate the catatonia. So the next slide talks about looking for signs, and some of the early signs are a sort of slowness, so people start to slow down, where they start to have freezing or shutdown episodes, where there's a decline in interest and engagement, where there's a deterioration in functioning and skills, an increase in passivity, and becoming more withdrawn and less communicative. Now again, you can see the overlap there potentially with, for example, depression, where you might see some of those as well. The next slide, what can help? Well, not surprisingly, increasing structure, routine and consistency can help, as it can for many autistic individuals in many aspects of their life. The importance of actually helping the individual, and this may include physical help, prompting people, and at first this might be full prompts, so actually moving the person's arm to pick up the pen. This can then gradually be withdrawn to a verbal prompt, refocusing and distracting, and reducing decision making, so reducing demands on the autistic individual. Let's think then of specific problems where you might be able to help. So let's think about eating. Sometimes the knife and fork acts as a trigger, and if you put a spoon in front of the person, they can actually use a spoon. The consistency of the food, maybe it needs to be quite easy for the person to swallow and digest. As mentioned before, the physical and verbal prompts. It may be necessary for you to actually feed the person in these catatonic episodes. Let's think about talking. Don't pressurise the person to speak, and clearly that's important all round in relation to autism, but particularly if somebody's experiencing catatonia. And it may be, again, you have to step in and make choices and decisions for the individual if they're unable to do that at the time. If the person is freezing, adopting these fixed postures and standing still, it's important not to push them out of those, but to give them prompts, gentle prompts to try and move to another position. It might be that you can help them walk by linking arms, or walking as a group, so the individual can actually copy what the other people in the group are doing, and again prompting. If it's affecting continence, it might mean that you have to do regular and frequent physical prompts, and hopefully then reduce into verbal prompts. You do see this catatonic excitement, which is this wavy flexibility where you might see some unusual movements. Please don't say, don't be silly, and you need to keep them safe. And the final slide then would have been thank you and open to questions. So I'm going to ask the two people in the room if they have any questions, Rennick and Calvin.
No, good. Not particularly, sorry. I think it was a very thorough explanation.
Now at this point we would have a break with Calvin's cakes, and in order not to upset anyone, we don't have any cakes today because we thought that would be cruel. So there will be cakes later down the line, but at the moment there aren't any, not even virtually. But have a look at Calvin's Cakes of the Months from previous posts. You may be able to recreate some of those at home. Hopefully if you can get hold of flour and so on. What I thought I'd now do is hand over to Rennick and Calvin for a bit of light relief. Maybe there'll be a domestic between the two of them, as they are in a household together and are working together, so have very little breaks from each other. They've also been doing a brilliant job at doing the streams in the evening, so just to remind you of those, Tuesday at the moment is Spyro 3, the Wednesdays is Jackbox, the interactive game, and on Fridays, I've gone and forgotten already. Final Fantasy 9 is Fridays. So please connect with us. Please look at the daily bulletins. I'm sorry they're getting a bit repetitive, although some people are saying they find the repetition helpful. And we're trying to come up with other ways to help you. So one of the things that Calvin's doing is been reviewing games that you want to look at before you spend your money on them. So we're now going to do a social distance dance and bring the boys to the forefront.
Hello.
See if I can get myself in shot.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
How are we getting through lockdown then, Rennie boy?
Well, I have been. Should we talk? Should we say what we're going to be talking about?
Well, I think we're going to sort of do a few of these how to get through lockdown measures, considering that we could be in this for quite a few more weeks without complete normality. So I've been playing a ton of games, so that's really where I wanted to start with this one. That seems to be the one industry that's not shutting down at the minute.
Yeah, I think it's benefited by the fact that a lot of them can work remotely.
Yeah, and there's not been that many major delays. I mean, the only delay I've seen from Nintendo, for example, recently has been Ninjala.
Yeah.
That was supposed to come out the day we recorded this.
Oh yeah.
It's been pushed back to June the 24th. That's a good one to actually shout out at the beginning with, because that's a free game.
Yeah, you just have to have a Nintendo Switch.
The thing is, I will say it's going to have, rather like Fortnite, which is also a free game, it's going to have microtransactions, and the company's been very coy about what those microtransactions are going to entail. So you're going to be spending some money on that game. Yeah. But I can't tell you what, because they won't tell me.
Yeah, because we haven't seen it yet. That's good.
I think we'll start with most of our people we know play consoles, so we'll save that one for a little bit. Let's start with you. You've been playing a lot of PC games recently.
Yeah, so I've recently been able to. Full disclosure, I have a Mac, which isn't the best starting point for.
Well, it's weird because I've got a gaming PC, and yet I'm not the one that's been researching into this.
Yeah, so I've mainly been playing like free to play games and things on Steam. Really, honestly, I haven't been playing any new stuff because my computer isn't good enough to play them. But I have been playing the Total War Warhammer games, which are really good. So
didn't they come on offer recently?
Yeah, they were on sale for it was like half price or something. So I did the really stupid thing, and before playing any of the games, I decided to sink about 50 quid into buying.
The Steam summer sale strike again.
Yeah, so my wallet got hit pretty bad, but they're a phenomenal game. So the Total War games are kind of like a top-down army control real-time strategy game mixed with empire building and conquest kind of games.
Yeah, you can take those ones. I'm not a fan of those games.
I love those games.
And of course, you've been playing a lot of League of Legends.
I have been playing a lot of League of Legends. So League of Legends is free to play. It's usually a 5v5 formula where you play against another 5 people across the internet, and you've got 4 people on your team. And that's what's called a MOBA. I don't know what MOBA stands for.
Mobile. It's something like I know this one as well. It's like multiplayer online battle arena, I believe it is.
I think that's it. Yeah, you've got it. So that's a very popular game that a lot of people play, and it's available on PC and such.
I wouldn't go nuts for that. I still would not recommend people get into that one just because it will absorb your life.
That's the problem.
In every sense of the word.
I got out of this game about 4 or 5 years ago.
Same.
It's pulled me back in.
I've just got myself a new gaming PC to get it, so I'd have more, because with me now I'm doing written reviews for video games. I wanted to have more possibilities. Yeah. And I can't go around to my mum's house to get my Xbox. Every single Xbox game is going to PC now, so it increases my ability on that one. That's a different criticism for a different day, that Xbox doesn't keep half of their games on the Xbox.
So I've been playing a couple more games sort of similar to the empire building aspect of Total War. So I've also been playing Civilization 5 and Civilization 6, which coincidentally, up until the 28th of May, is available. The whole game is free if you get it until the 28th of May on the Epic Games Store.
Not on Steam though, which is annoying because Steam's what most people who play PC games use.
So the good thing about that is it has cross-platform playability. So if you've got it on the Epic Game Store, you can still play with people who own it on Steam.
But it doesn't work for, say, Mac to PC.
So yeah, I don't think Civ 6 works on Mac yet, unfortunately.
Oh, you're not playing on the Mac?
No, I'm playing it on Boot Camp on the Windows side of my computer. So.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
so if I get Civ 6, we can play against each other?
Yeah, we can still play.
Well, the thing for me about Civ 6 is I've heard a lot. The reason I've not bought it yet, I've not heard a lot of good things about it. If I'm honest.
To be fair, I hadn't.
I've heard a lot. It got ported to the Switch, like I think 2 years ago now, and and I know that port is terrible.
I believe it's also available on mobiles and tablets, but it will be in like a watered down.
Why would you play version. Civilization on a tablet or a phone? I really
just probably so you can take it with you.
But again, I could get it on. I think even the Switch version would be better for that.
Probably.
But here's the thing, though. Do you like Civ 6? Because I've heard a lot of people say even Civilization fans that get the PC version say they don't like Civ 6.
To be honest with you, a lot of things have changed in between Civ 5 and Civ 6. Civ 5 I've sunk a lot of hours into and I love. Civ 6 is kind of, it's different, but it also tries to simplify, but also like add other complexity in other areas. I'd say it's good. I'd say I enjoy it. And it's free until the 28th, I'd say get it.
So you would say best game to get you, all PC owners, best game to get you through lockdown, keep the boredom up, has endless replayability.
Okay, in that case it's Skyrim, I'm afraid.
What about good multiplayer with your friends?
I've always been a huge fan of Left 4 Dead, and I mean, so that's like a zombie shooter game, basically.
That's quite an old one. Yeah, I'd agree with you. I got it on my PC, and we haven't had a game of that yet.
No, we need to play
because I actually really like that one. I'm kind of disappointed with Valve have never gone back to that franchise. The fact they haven't gone back to any of their franchises.
Yeah, well, they're going back to Half-Life because
we just had that earlier this year. We had a Half-Life Alyx. I haven't actually reviewed that yet.
Isn't it? Is it VR?
I think it is a VR game. Yeah, and I need to get. I can't be asked getting an Oculus Rift. To play one game.
Can you not use the one with the PlayStation?
No. The PlayStation one is strictly PlayStation virtual reality. It does not apply to. If you want to play the PC ones or the Xbox ones, you need to get an Oculus Rift.
Right, okay.
So I don't like the fact that that's a game and the franchise they've been taking a very long time for.
Yeah.
And they've now sunk it behind another paywall. So I'm surprised you wouldn't say League of Legends would be your get you through lockdown game.
Well, no, League of Legends is you can enjoy it at a kind of base level, but like I think to get the most fun from it or the most enjoyment, you have to sink a lot of hours into it, and the enjoyment comes from learning more about the game rather than just playing it. And I think you can have a lot more of a fun experience, more interesting things happen if you're playing online with random people on Left 4 Dead 2 or something like Overwatch or Team Fortress 2. You know, one of those.
I think good multiplayer right now we can't really see our mates, so I think good online multiplayer is a good factor and what makes a really good game.
Yeah.
So
following on from that, I think we can talk about one game that we've had some good multiplayer experiences.
Yeah, we've had a few good multiplayer experiences with because I've got a Switch.
As do I.
I'm playing a lot of Animal Crossing: New Horizons. Just got that I got that on the Switch day one. I'm not sure if I would say this is the best Animal Crossing ever.
Oh, really?
I think on a lot of levels, just for the amount you can customize, the amount you can do within the game, the sort of just base, and the fact the Nook Miles program that they give you in the game means you can earn rewards as you're playing it, so it kind of focuses you on what you want to do. Oh, well, I'm going to get a reward if I sell fruit today. Well, I've cultivated a bunch of these fruits over this part of my island, so I'll get them and sell that, and then sell them off, and I'll get some Nook Miles, and then I can buy that, save them up, and buy that Godzilla statue from the program.
Yeah.
It's a very well fun game. I've actually joined a group on Facebook of people, and every morning I'm just constantly getting messages of how much are your turnips today?
Yeah.
Because there's this whole network of you've got to buy turnips on a Sunday morning. And then you've got to sell them by next Saturday, but the price of turnips goes up and down as the days go on.
It's a weird stock market.
It's a weird stock market effect. And I've got another message this morning. Everyone wants to go to this. Our friend Luis from Magic the Gathering group, he said, "Oh, my island's got 178 bells per turnip."
Yeah.
And everyone was like, "Can we come to your island quickly?" I think that game's very good fun. It's a great way to connect with your mates. You can have up to 8 people on one island at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So I could, in theory, I could invite you, Reese, Elliot, and 4 more other people to come to my island. We can all hang out, all do something, and you don't have to worry about your friends ruining your island because unless you're in the best friends list, they can't use certain tools like axes or
so they can't ruin you.
They can't ruin your trees or dig up your island. It's quite good because you're going to need to do it because I think I need to start playing more multiplayer with it because I've run out of fossils for the museum.
Oh really?
Every day it sort of Blathers keeps telling me, no, we've already got one of these. You got to. So that's a good one. I think another one that's it's on Switch, but it's also on PlayStation 4 and PC. Is called Trials of Mana. I really like this one. A review's going up for this on the site. I've scored it very highly. I really like this one. This one's endlessly replayable. Yeah. It's kind of like a very easy RPG. So it's very, if you don't play a lot of role playing games, you can sink yourself into this one. You get one of 6 characters. You play as 3 of 6 characters, and you pick who's going to be the main character and who's going to be the 2 support characters, and the story's affected by which you choose. It kind of establishes who the main villain of the story will be, who the main character will be, and it's endlessly replayable.
Okay.
It's not much of a challenge though. I will say I'm not going to fully recommend it because it's not much of a challenge.
How long would you say it takes to complete?
Main story 20 hours, 26 hours if you do the extra dungeon at the end.
Right. Okay.
Because this is a remake of a Super Nintendo game, so it's obviously not going to be that long.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'd say it's about 48 to 50 hours to 100% the game.
Okay.
So I'd still say you get a lot of time out of it, and it's going to be really replayable. I think even after you 100% it, you're going to say, well, what if I made this character the main one? We're even considering it for a stream later this year.
Yeah, I think it'd be good fun.
I think it'd be good fun. I'm going to say, though, my big problem with this one, the reason I'm not going to fully recommend it, is no multiplayer. Mm-hmm. And it's annoying because the Super Nintendo game does have multiplayer. Yeah. So I'd say, which you can get now on the Switch. It's available on a box collection called Collection of Mana. Mm-hmm. I really like that one. I think that one's very worthwhile. I get it as a Christmas present. Very good, enjoyable. And with that, you also get Final Fantasy Adventure and Secret of Mana. And of course, the one everyone's talking about, Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Oh yes.
On PlayStation 4, the big PlayStation 4 exclusive until Last of Us Part 2 comes out.
Mm-hmm. Well, which is soon actually.
It comes out next month.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of the games that did get a minor delay because of COVID fears. You haven't played much of Final Fantasy VII Remake at all, have you?
No, to be honest, I played like maybe 15 minutes of the original Final Fantasy VII, so that's my experience with that. Apart from watching boss videos on YouTube. Okay,
so I've beaten Final Fantasy VII on a couple of occasions. I will say I'm not entirely sold on this new Final Fantasy VII, but this is still my favourite Final Fantasy since 10.
Yeah.
I'm going to stand by that. This is my favourite Final Fantasy since 10. I really like the game a whole lot. It's got the new ending to this portion of the game because it only does the Midgar section of the game, which is like 5 hours in the original one. I would say it's a very good for the time being, and it has some replay value in it. It's got the battle simulator, which challenges your skills. You can only get certain bosses if you play the game on hard, and you've got to beat the mission. You only unlock hard mode after you beat the game.
Oh, so it's like a New Game Plus kind of thing?
It's kind of, they give you a chapter select thing at the end of the game, and it says you can play different portions, and certain side quests are linked to certain chapters. The big problem I have with the game is the side quests are pretty much mandatory if you want to not be under-leveled. Yeah. Like, I don't like that in RPGs. A lot of people will tell me, oh, well, you're supposed to grind for this thing, and it's all the whole point of RPGs. And I'm like, no, the whole point of side quests they're nice extras. If I need to do them to not be underleveled, then they shouldn't be side quests. They should be main story missions. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't believe it. And I don't want to go to the worst other end of the extreme, like Final Fantasy 13, because that game's dull as
way too linear.
Just one of the most linear games you'll ever play, and it's so dull. So I think it's my recommendation for PlayStation 4 owners this month, but I think at the minute, I would say if you want a great multiplayer game on the PlayStation 4, there's better games you can get. What do you think of a really good multiplayer game on the PlayStation?
I mean, to be honest, Jackbox is a
Jackbox is really good.
game.
I'll tell you one that we played a bit that I liked. Overcooked 2.
Oh, that was very fun. Yeah.
That was very fun. It was chaotic. It was mad. I think that's a good. I think that's. You can have it to 4 players. It's this mad cooking situation.
Yeah.
And everyone has to work together to get to sort of fill a criteria.
I think it's available also on
It's
Xbox.
available. Yeah.
It might be on Steam.
Yeah.
But it's hilarious.
I'd
really
say
fun.
you get about 40 hours with Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Okay, that's quite.
So I think that one's a good one. Xbox One owners, you only have one choice right now of what game to buy, and that's Ori and the Will of Wisps.
Yeah, that you rated that really high.
Yeah, no, that's if it wasn't for one other game, which I realise now is my recommendation for PlayStation 4 owners, which I'll get to in a minute. This would be my game of the year at the minute. This would be my game of the year contender. I love this game so much. I haven't got a box with me, and I haven't played. I've played the PC version of it, which is even better. It runs at I think the Xbox One version runs at 30 frames per second, and the PC version runs at 60 frames per second.
Massive.
It's a massive improvement, and the animations are really fluid. It's a sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest, which was already my favourite Metroidvania game. Or Metroidvania, kind of like those games where you start out, you've got not much gear, you're not very strong, and you sort of build up these characters as you go, and you get upgrades for certain abilities, and then you start feeling more and more powerful, and you can go back to these. This old idea is you're exploring these 2D environments and exploring this really vast world. Hollow Knight's done it very well. Castlevania Symphony of Night's a really good example. The Metroid games obviously do it very well, but I think Ori and the Will of the Wisps might be my favourite now. They've refined the combat from the first game. It's a gorgeous looking game. Like, this is one of the best looking games this generation. The story's very heartfelt. It obviously takes a lot of influence from Pixar and Ghibli. It's really great looking game. So I'd say Xbox owners, I'd say if you want great multiplayer on the Xbox, get Halo the Master Chief Collection. It's on sale most of the time now, and it's just come to Steam as well.
I mean, it has 3 of the best games that are Xbox exclusive.
I mean, there's 4 because you get all the major series Halos updated, and you got I believe you get Halo Reach and ODST, and you got the online multiplayer on all those games. So an online multiplayer is great on Halo. So I'd say if you're gonna get that's if you want the multiplayer on Xbox, the Master Chief Collection's my pick, and single player experience, it's Ori. I know Ori's only like 10-15 minutes, but I've just start 10-15 hours gameplay. But I've just recently restarted the game and doing 100% run on hard, and so it feels endlessly replayable. You're not gonna, unless you. I'd say it's about 18 hours. If you want 100% everything,
I think a kind of good comparison on PC for the Ori games that you're talking about are something like Bastion, which are games that aren't.
Oh, Bastion! That's brilliant.
They're not incredibly long, and they do have replayability as far as the game is just like a masterpiece. It's kind of self-contained and won't take you that long to finish, maybe like a few hours, but really has like some amazing gameplay and it's incredibly well done. And the art style is just beautiful.
I love that game. I like that game a lot. I would say though, if I'm gonna PlayStation 4 owners though, I think the best single player experience on PlayStation 4 right now is another PlayStation 4 exclusive, and it's Persona 5 The Royal.
Yeah. Go on, explain that.
Persona 5 The Royal is essentially this. It's a turn-based RPG, and it's based around this kid who I think he's like 17 years old, and he gets moved to Tokyo from his hometown after he's charged with assault on a politician who you won't be surprised has made it up entirely to get back at him. And he's now on probation, and they get caught in. Him on the way to his new school gets caught in this this app on his phone that changes reality in the world. So it goes to a person's world, and these extra realities based on people's distorted desires. And the idea is him and his friends team up as a group of thieves to steal the treasure that represents their desires, and in order to make the world a better place, because when they do, they immediately confess to all their crimes. So like you've got
only in a JRPG.
Yeah, this is like it's high school kids teaming up to save the world from demigods.
Yeah.
I really love this one because it's an RPG which encourages you to take your time. Like this is my playthrough. I did the full playthrough with the extra stuff. This is an updated version of Persona 5, which came out in 2017. It was my game of the year of 2017. This adds about 20 hours worth of content. I'd say it has 20, 30 hours worth of content. You can do and the idea is of the game, you're meant to max out people's confidant routes. So you do well with your friends. It improves their stat. It basically improves their abilities in the other reality, or you might get an extra ability. Like I would say, if you're gonna and maxing them out means you can get some real benefits. Yeah. It is possible to max out everyone in one playthrough, but you're gonna need a guide to do it because you need to make sure who's doing what on this day, who's doing that way, because you've got to manage about 5 months of in-game time. Yeah. Sort of thing, and you've also got to do a certain criteria to unlock the extras. That's the one thing I don't like about it. You've got to unlock the extra content in some cases. Like you got to, if you want to do that, you've got to max out the new character, Dr. Maruki's confidant route. He's got by the middle of November. Fail that and you don't get it.
So I think we should add that Persona 5 The Royal is actually an extension of the original game, which is just Persona 5. So The Royal adds a load of extra content.
Yeah, it adds a load of extra content. You get a new part of town. You got a darts mini game, which improves some abilities you get in the other reality. There's a new character, Kasumi, who's been really heavily pushed in a lot of the advertising campaign. You don't actually get much of her if you don't unlock the extra third semester.
Yeah, right.
Honestly, you barely do get much about her. She's kind of an extra part of the game, but which incidentally we won't be maxing out her thing on our playthrough when I get round to it, because they don't let you record. They don't let you stream. PlayStation don't let you stream.
Oh, restriction of the new content.
The new content. They will only let you. The same reason we didn't stream Final Fantasy VII Remake. They don't let you show the new ending.
That's really irritating.
I know, it's really irritating because I really want to say to these companies, do you not realise these are going to be on the internet by the end of the day on release? Yeah. Maybe not so much with Persona 5 because my playthrough was like 90 hours. I basically spent the entirety of April at the height of lockdown and I was never bored. Yeah. It was like, oh good, I get to hang out with Futaba today, or oh great, I'm going to help Makoto out with saving this girl from her exploitative boyfriend.
You may not have been bored, but at times you were agitated.
No, that was the Okumura boss fight. That was agitating. I have to apologise for that one. But no, the Okumura boss fight was just the worst. It's really bad in the original game, and they actually made it worse this time round. Oh god. Because I won't go any further into it because I don't want to give away spoilers, but let's just say that boss fight is just the worst. So that's my recommendations at the minute are, I would say, I'd obviously say as well, when it comes to multiplayer content, the two best games on Switch right now are Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
So we've actually, between a group of friends that...
Well, yeah, we've basically been playing Mario Kart every Saturday night. We've all got together at Saturday night and played, and you lot have all got really, really drunk playing Mario Kart. And just yelling at each other, saying, why have you done this? No!
Well, it's usually when I get hit by 3 red shells. At that point, of course, I'm going to get upset.
Yes, and you robbed me of that race. You robbed me. I was right there. I was about to give us a finish like that. Wham!
It's what you got for being in first. I'm sorry.
I was about to do it, and then I suddenly went fourth.
Yeah, so unfortunately...
Tell Matty to turn off the AI so it's just us in the race.
Yeah, I will do. But unfortunately, Mario Kart has the same friendship-ruining capacity as things like Monopoly, but it's so much fun.
But the thing is, that's online multiplayer. I think we need to talk about offline multiplayer as well. And I think with the Switch, there's one game we're going to talk about in a bit, because we're going to talk about upcoming games, what we're recommending, saying these are the games to buy at full price when they come out, we reckon. But although I would say with no games, with any game, just unless you're really a big fan, wait until reviews come out if you're going to spend full price on a game.
Yeah, wait that long.
But games I'm really liking at the minute with the offline multiplayer, I'd say Smash Bros is really excellent because it's even better offline multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have more fun with the offline than we did with the online multiplayer.
Yeah, usually.
And I mean, they're about to add a new character into it from ARMS is coming in apparently next month, although director Masahiro Sakurai went on Twitter as soon as this was announced to basically say, no, probably not happening, probably going to be July.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it gets pushed back to July. I mean, I wouldn't be the same with the upcoming Pokemon expansion. I wouldn't be surprised if that gets pushed back to July.
Yeah,
it's meant to come out at the end of June. What's upcoming that you're liking the look of?
Oh, there's... I don't know if it's going to be presumably single player on PlayStation 4 called Ghost of Tsushima.
Ghost of Tsushima, yeah, that looks amazing.
It's like an open world feudal Japan warfare.
I think that will be the last... It's going to be a PlayStation 4 exclusive game. Yeah. I think that will be the last...
It looks like it's historical setting in the midst of like the Mongolian invasion of Japan, which for me is
and it's going to have a little
phenomenal.
Interesting. It's going to be a bit like Assassin's Creed, but it's going to have a bit of a morality system which affects your character's appearance and playstyle. And
yeah, so like Fable.
It's kind of got a bit of a Fable effect, except it's going to be enjoyable. Yeah, come at me, Fable fans. Those games are boring and you all know it.
No, I enjoy Fable. Fable 1 and
It's
2,
over before it's even begun.
Fable 1's quite long.
Fable 3 is like 5 hours and I'm done.
That's the main story though.
I don't care about the side quests. Look,
we're
getting off topic.
And that's why you don't enjoy playing Skyrim.
We're getting off topic again. I enjoy playing Skyrim.
Just the main quest.
No, I do enjoy playing the side quests in Skyrim. You can sod off with that one. One that's coming out. So that's coming out. I think will be good for everyone around. If you got family and everyone wants to play have a board game night. It's coming out for the Switch on June the 5th. Mm-hmm. It's called Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics, and it's all sorts of board games from all over the world. So like Chinese checkers, shogi, chess. But they also added a few things like toy, baseball, and even bowling, which looks like it's going to be taken straight out of Wii Sports.
Oh, brilliant! That was one of the best ones.
And you're going to be able to use the Joy-Con controllers from the Switch like you would the Wiimotes. So you will have a motion control bowling game from one. So if you liked the bowling game in Wii Sports, this is essentially going to have a remake of it in this game. I'm genuinely excited. I think they're relying a bit too much on the touchscreen. Effects. I don't like using the touchscreen on the Switch because I'm always worried I'm going to scratch it or smudge it with my fingertip, and then I'm going to have to get out the screen cleaner, and I don't like constantly using the screen cleaner on it. So, but that's me personally. I know a lot of people do not mind the touchscreens. That's coming out. Xbox owners, sorry, nothing's coming until the end of the year.
There is some more DLC coming out for Civilization 6, which is actually as a kind of season pass over the course of the year.
Oh, that's why they've made it free. I thought they were bringing it
I think it's a promotion. So they're adding
presumably the expansions to Civilization 6 are not free.
No, you'll have to pay for those, but they'll probably go on sale when the new one comes out. So what the new mode is adding is what's called Apocalypse Game Mode. And that's well timed. Yeah, very well timed. And the way that works is basically natural disasters and things become much more of a common fixture in Civilization 6. So you've got things like meteor showers, volcano eruptions, floods, and earthquakes, and tornadoes and things like that.
I think the other big PlayStation release that's coming out at the end of June is going to be The Last of Us Part 2, obviously.
Which seems to be very...
I think between that and Ghost of Tsushima, which is coming out in July, those are the last great PlayStation 4 exclusive games. And that's a console that's had an amazing exclusive library. I mean, you could...
Well, there's Assassin's Creed Ragnarok coming out.
Yeah, but that's a multi-plat.
Oh, right, okay.
That's coming to the Xbox One and the PC as well. Do not buy it on the PC.
Really?
Yeah, Ubisoft screw up every single PC version of every single game they ever do.
They have their kind of equivalent to Steam and to Epic Games Store, which
it's called Uplay.
It's got horrible playability.
In fact, most PCs will actually say it's virus software and not let you use it. Yeah. Rightfully so, and it screws up any game you're in. They don't pay much care and attention. Like they were into single frame rates when Assassin's Creed Syndicate was put on there. And what they did with Watch Dogs, my God.
Yeah.
They actually lowered the graphical capability of that game so it wouldn't look better than the other consoles. Even though you buy a PC version because you want a better looking version than the consoles. So honest, and they've now introduced something called Uplay Plus, which is a subscription service to stream video games. Who's saying
like Google Stadia?
It's kind of like Google Stadia, but it's more equivalent to like PlayStation Plus, PlayStation Now, and Xbox. The new Xbox One, their new streaming service, Game Pass. But it's like, who's saying? I remember this Scott the Woz thing. He said this as well. It's like £15 a month. Who's saying, I only want to play Ubisoft games. I want to play Ubisoft games and only Ubisoft games, and I don't want to own a single one of them. I'm going to get us a £15 subscription service a month to play Rayman Legends. Like, Rayman Legends is a good game, but I'm not paying. I don't want to spend £15 a month so I can play it. Why don't I could just spend like £7 and get it a good second-hand copy on Amazon? Yeah. Why would you do that? I do not get that one. So the Assassin's Creed Ragnarok's coming out later this year. They said Christmas time, that sort of time for that one. I don't see, I think that right now Switch owners have got it best because we've got a new Paper Mario coming in July.
That's right, yeah.
Xbox owners, I don't know what they have to be excited about except for the multiplats.
Yeah.
And most of them are coming out in September time. Things like Tony Hawk's remakes, the Cyberpunk 2077, the Avengers. I don't even know if the Avengers game is going to Xbox. I think it might be a PlayStation 4 exclusive.
Oh wow, God, Xbox are really losing out.
Yeah, and the other reason I think Xbox are also really losing out is they put all their games on PC. The only game I could find that was Xbox One only was Halo 5 Guardians. Why would you not then say, I'm going to invest in a PC which can play more games and will last longer?
Because it's a lot more expensive.
I know it's a lot more expensive, but
in the long run,
in the long run, it's a much better investment because I think the amount of times you're going to have to change it, because it's probably going to last you more than 7 years, I reckon.
Oh yeah, a good computer will.
And that's how long a console's life cycle tends to go. They tend to last about 5 to 7 years, unless they're the Wii U, in which case free. But that's just my thought on the process. I think Microsoft have really screwed up with this one. They keep putting all their games on Steam, and they really shouldn't do that. I mean,
they've got a more close relationship than with obviously Microsoft. Computer developers than say Sony.
But I don't think they realise how damaging it. And even if you took all the ones that went to PC out and you allowed things like the Forza games, the Gears games, the Sunset Overdrive, Ori, all those ones, it still pales in comparison to the PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
The PlayStation 4 really has won, and the Switch also has great exclusives. And a lot of people say, oh, well, exclusive games rack up the price and make us forced to buy multiple systems in order to play Sony games. Yeah, good. I'm sorry, good. If there's one game system, if all the games going to go on every single system, what's the point of having multiple systems? There's no point to it at that point. And there's no competition then. And that means the video game companies can treat you worse than they otherwise would.
Right, okay, I've got a suggestion. Nationalise video games.
No, it's not going to work. I've explained
one system, state-owned.
The irony is...
where's your PlayStation license now? Asks the UK government.
No, we definitely... Microsoft would outbid Sony on that one any day of the week. I mean, that being said, if one of these companies was to bow out console development, I have to agree again with Scott on this one. If one company was to bow out, it would be Xbox. Like they lose money on the Xbox brand every year. Yeah. They don't make most of their money from the Xbox brand. They make most of their money from Microsoft Office and the Windows computers. So I don't see. I wouldn't put it this way. I think they will keep the Xbox brand around even after the Series X comes out in Christmas. But I think it's only because it gets at Microsoft in the homes. I think if the Series X is not that successful a console, I would not be surprised if they just said this is the last Microsoft console. We're going to focus mostly on PC games. Yeah. I mean, I can't see Sony doing that because they kind of need the PlayStation, and Nintendo make a lot more money selling it on their own hardware. Yeah. So I don't see them bowing out.
Should we round up?
Yeah. So round up. Best game to buy now. Best game coming out. Do you reckon?
Best game to buy now.
Single player and multiplayer.
Okay, Okay, you do yours first.
I'd say single players, Persona 5 Royal, Ori and the Will of Wisps, and Trials of Mana are my out right now and full price buys. Otherwise, I would say check digital shops because there's a lot of good eShop sales going on right now. Like Nintendo's always constantly having one on, Steam's constantly having one on, PlayStation's had a few really good ones in recent memory. So I'd say if you want older games at good prices, check your shop sales, and you're bound to find something that you've just said, I haven't been able to buy that for a while. Like I saw Diablo 3 on sale for like 16 quid, and that was the full version. I thought that's a brilliant deal. That was like 70% off. So there's a few. The companies are trying to flog you as many games as they can right now.
Yeah.
So I'd say take them up on that offer. But of games out right now, relatively new and have come out this year, Persona 5 Royal, Ori Will of the Wisps, Animal Crossing New Horizons, Trials of Mana, and Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Fair play.
And upcoming, probably the best ones, although I want to stress check reviews for these ones, would be Paper Mario Origami King, Ghost of Tsushima, and The Last of Us Part 2.
Well, I'm not going to make any recent recommendations because I haven't been playing recent games, really.
What would you say right now is your thoughts by this?
To be honest with you, I'd say buy Civilization, like one of the Civilization games, because they have like amazing single player that you arguably you wouldn't even need to delve into multiplayer if you didn't feel that you needed to. Like the single player playability on those games is kind of near endless, really. And probably actually, like for an old single player franchise that I would recommend going back to, Arkham City and Arkham Asylum for the Batman games, they're really good, and like they have aged quite well.
Yeah, just don't get Arkham Knight.
Don't get Arkham Knight.
That game ends terribly.
Arkham Origin.
Arkham Origins is alright. Arkham Knight ends terribly.
Yeah.
I hate the ending of that game so much.
And if you feel like you want to inflict pain upon yourself and with a toxic community, League of Legends. But I wouldn't recommend it.
I would say if you want a good way to connect with your friends, though, I'd say Mario Kart 8 has great online multiplayer.
Definitely.
And Animal Crossing New Horizons is just a great way to have all your friends over and have a good hangout.
But also meeting people online. I know a lot of Facebook groups have kind of sprouted up around Animal Crossing New Horizons. People just giving items to each other, like kind of even posting pictures of their homes. And
I would say though, be careful if you're going to do that because you might not know these people. You don't know.
Yeah, obviously, who
they are. So I'd say be careful if you're going to do that.
Yeah.
That's I think our thoughts on how to get out of lockdown without boredom.
Yeah.
Let's go home and stream.
Yes. Thanks for watching.